Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MWO News. My name's Runs With Fire and I'll be bringing you the latest news for Mechwarrior Online. The headlines this week: patch 1.2.168 dropped on the 18th of December, and with it brought a whole slew of new content for the game. The most significant addition was the introduction of a new game mode called Conquest, and anyone who has played the old Battlefield series of games, or indeed has played Arathi Basin in World of Warcraft, will be instantly familiar with this resource gathering game mode. We also saw the addition of a new map, River City Night, so we finally have a reason to use the night vision mode on our mechs. The Mech Lab also saw several new additions this week, with the introduction of the 85-ton Stalker mech, and also two new hero variants for the Dragon. Fang and Flame are two opposing playstyles of Dragon mech, one focusing on long-range support and the other for close-up brawling. Phase 2 of the seasonal Cockpit items has been introduced, this time focusing on New Year's 3050. Those are now available for purchase with Mechwarrior credits. And finally, we saw the removal of the repair and rearm requirement within the Mech Lab, meaning you no longer have to expend your C-bills to get your mech up to a fighting state after a match. This, as well as the introduction of a Cadet bonus for your first 25 games, means that PGI really does hope to improve the experience for new players of the game. Now those stories in detail. On the 18th of December, PGI released the last patch of 2012, and with it they took the opportunity to introduce a brand new game mode to Mechwarrior Online. With rumblings of unusual activity occurring throughout the periphery, many of the factions are seeking to acquire large quantities of the element known as germanium, and of course Mechwarriors are only too happy to help them acquire it. The maps available for Conquest mode are currently reskins of previously seen maps, although this time they feature 5 resource collection points which Mechwarriors must fight over to gain control. The first team to reach 750 resource points or to completely eliminate their enemy are deemed the winners. Win or lose, however, all Mechwarriors receive a bonus in C-bill payment for every point of resource that they collect. There are some known bugs with Conquest mode, however, meaning that players are not receiving the C-bill bonus reward that they are entitled to. This bug seems to be occurring if you do not specifically request to play a Conquest mode type map when launching the game. PGI has already stated that this bug will be addressed in the next patch. Some criticism from the player base has already been levelled at the new Conquest mode, claiming that it amounts to little more than a glorified deathmatch. Whilst I very much agree that many of the current maps are too small to sustain this style of map play, and it does tend to result in a large-scale brawl around several of the resource points, and most victories are won by a deathmatch style victory by eliminating the enemy team. It is interesting to see this game mode being deployed, and it does create for some interesting new fights on the map. Instead of seeing the usual engagement or areas that you see in assault mode, fighting is much more localized in various areas between the various 5 resource collection points, and that in itself can provide a new variation to playing these maps that is different from the old style assault mode. I'm also fairly confident that PGI will in fact introduce new maps, larger maps, specifically for the Conquest map type. It will be particularly interesting to see if PGI chooses to incorporate their proposed dropship mechanic or some other kind of respawning resource into this game mode, as it's pretty much standard for this type and does make the use of Conquest a much more tactically orientated game and eliminates the potential question as to whether this is just a glorified deathmatch. However, by doing that, it would take away something of the key game design mechanics for MWO, so I'll be particularly interested to see how PGI will cope with that and what kind of game design they have in the plans to really expand the Conquest mode. I think overall it is a good addition to the game, and I'm glad to see it in. PGI will have to refine it slightly in order to make it as interesting as it has the potential to be, but right now it's well implemented and it does add that little bit of variation that we've been looking for when playing the same maps over and over again. This patch also saw the release of the 85-ton Stalker Assault Class Mech. This is a powerhouse of a mech which is bristling with armaments and has a high armor value to boot. However, this is offset by a very limited top speed of only 48.6 kilometers per hour, and it does have only a limited torso twist capability. The Stalker was released with 5 variants, and although each of them are slightly different, they do focus on the same medium lasers, large lasers, and mix of LRMs and SRMs. The Stalker model really reflects that it is a lumbering siege weapon, and the animation quality has been well realised, really adding to the sense that this is a lumbering juggernaut, which isn't fast moving. It's actually far more suited to a siege type mentality, and you can really imagine that this beast moving forward is looking to decimate the local cities and townscapes. And you really do get a sense of size and scale just from looking at the model, and as well as that lumbering animation. Whilst I'm extremely glad to see a new mech on the field, especially one with so many different variants available straight off of the bat, I am concerned slightly that the limited torso twist is going to have an impact on how regularly this mech is used. It's probably going to be much more suited towards a heavy LRM team composition, and we will probably see a lot more of this mech in pug play and being used by solo wolves compared to being seen in competitive matches where the mobility and that torso twist is really highly appreciated. So it's something to look for, something to consider when you're looking at which mech you're going to take, especially for competitive matches. PGI also took the opportunity to introduce 2 new hero mechs in this patch. Both of them are Dragon Chassis variants. The first one is the Fang, something of a close-range brawler. It packs 2 medium lasers, 1 SRM-6 and an AC-10. The other is Flame, and this is something of a long-range support mech, having only 1 medium laser, the rest all being long-range weapons, including an ER large laser, an AC-2 and 1 LRM-5. Both mechs currently sport unique paint jobs, which are only for those 2 mechs, and they are different for each of the 2 different hero mechs, but keeping a common theme. Now, this will set you back roughly 4,500 Mechwarrior credits, which I believe, if my math is correct, equates to roughly $18.85. I have to say that I'm not personally infused by these 2 hero mechs, not because they're not good mechs. They do look pretty good. I really like the custom paint job. I am just not a fan of the dragon in general, and therefore on a personal level I am not particularly infused to buy these mechs. However, I know out there are a lot of dragon fans, those who would vehemently support the dragon as a worthwhile mech to take, and really there's no reason why fans of the Dragon Chassis shouldn't be looking to pick up these 2 hero mechs. They do look fantastic, and again, it's nice to see more of these hero mechs coming in. PGI has actually done a very good job of keeping the hero mechs relatively balanced. Perhaps the only one that's slightly not is the Mechwarrior because of its ability to field so many Gauss rifles, but Has it really stoked any complaints from the player base? I don't think it has, and overall PGI doing a great job with the introduction of these hero mechs, keeping it very well balanced, and I look forward to seeing more hero mechs being introduced in coming patches. Keeping with the theme of new mechs, PGI today announced Battlemech 19, the Orion. For those of you who do not know, the Orion is a 75-ton heavy class mech. The default model, the ON1K, sports as default a 1 autocannon 10, an LRM 15, 2 medium lasers, and an SRM 4. If you'd like to see more details of the Orion as its incarnation on Battletech Tabletop and some of the other variants that are available and will likely be included into MWO in the future, then I would highly suggest having a look at sana.net, the Battletech wiki. In further announcements, PGI has released details of Phase 3 Matchmaking and the new ELO rating system. The ELO system is currently under testing by PGI. However, the details that they have released so far is that default first time player score or ELO rating will be 1,300. The minimum score is obviously 0 and the maximum player score will be 2,800. The maximum change allowed in ELO in any one match will be plus or minus 50. The system is designed to match you up against players of roughly equal ELO rating, so theoretically should allow you for a 50-50 chance for win or loss. Obviously, in those situations where you're matched up against a player with a much higher ELO rating, the probability is that you are hypothetically going to lose. Therefore, if you do lose, you will lose less ELO points. However, if you win, you will gain a substantial increase to your ELO rating. Obviously, the reverse is true when facing off against opponents of an ELO rating lower than your own. In response to a question asked by the player base, PGI clarified that in cases of 8v8 team matches, the ELO score will be decided by taking the total individual score of each player on a team and then obviously dividing it by 8 to provide an average ELO score. PGI has not stated when Phase 3 matchmaking is due to be introduced, and much of it is likely to depend on how well their testing goes within their own closed network. However, in my opinion, this is nothing but a good thing for Mechwarrior Online. Teams and individual players have been clamoring for an ELO rating system pretty much since the early matchmaking was introduced into the game. The introduction of an ELO system would bring MWO in line with other competitive free-to-play games such as League of Legends, and it's likely to reduce the significant frustration of new players who are constantly matched up against opponents who have been playing for far longer and therefore are far better skilled simply by virtue of experience. The ELO rating system is also likely to be a significant boom for the competitive teams out there who really are itching for proper matchups, as there's currently no system to support that at present. However, what we don't know is how this is going to affect player run tournaments such as the Run Hot or Die tournament, where we currently rely on sync dropping to face off against a specific opponent. It remains to be seen whether PGI will allow a mechanism in MWO to allow you to selectively pick opposing teams, though I sincerely hope they do, because otherwise this could seriously hamper the thriving player-run tournament scene that we're currently seeing in MWO. Moving back to the content patch, and what a content patch it was, filled with a lot of stuff to cover. We saw the introduction of River City Night, our second night map, but arguably the first proper night map which actually requires the use of the night vision mode. There's no doubt in my mind that the map does look great, and the lighting effects from explosions and the neon signs scattered throughout River City do actually look fantastic, although I would like to see a few more lighting effects being caused by lasers, particularly the large lasers, as it does feel like they don't really show off against the backdrop of the night sky as much as the well-realized explosions do. Whilst it's fantastic to see another map type being included into the game, it is unfortunately yet another reskin of an already existing map, and unfortunate to say, it really is starting to feel like PGI is just recycling the existing maps a little bit. That's something of a shame to say, because they've obviously put a lot of work and a lot of effort into River City Night, and I don't wish to take away anything from the hard work that they've put into it, but I really would like to see a brand new map, and I think a lot of people were hoping to see a brand new map with a nighttime element attached to it. Hopefully we will see more. It is nice to see some variation, as I said earlier, but PGI would hopefully bring out some new maps, some larger maps, which aren't just reskins of the existing maps, some point in the new year. Ladies and gentlemen, 'tis the season to be jolly. Deck your mech with bells and holly. That's certainly PGI's mantra this Christmas, as we see part 2 of the seasonal cockpit decorations being released. The theme for this cockpit decoration fest is very much centered around New Year 3050, with there being a banner, several bottles of champagne available, and my personal favourite, the classy urban mech bobblehead. Perhaps my favourite element of this cockpit customization is the fact that PGI has really listened to its player base, and in particular the concerns that many players had about PGI's pricing point with many of the customization options and obviously the hero mechs as well. And this seems to be very much an experimental attempt by PGI to see if they can boost sales by dropping the cost of the cockpit items. Currently, many of the new cockpit items will cost you between 25 and 50 Mechwarrior credits, which roughly equates to about 21 cents, which is a bargain in anyone's book as far as I'm concerned. This is compared to previous cockpit items, which cost roughly about 250 to 500 Mechwarrior credits, roughly equal to about $1 to $2. Still not a bad price for those items. I think the real concern with PGI's pricing point came with some of the bobblehead items, and again the classy urban mech which is being released is 1,000 Mechwarrior credits, which is about $4.18, and that is a little bit more expensive and a little less palatable. Personally, I'm a fan of anything top hat and cigar related, so I will be buying it, but it's only because PGI has got me banged to rights on what I particularly like. If it wasn't, or if it wasn't something wearing a top hat, I probably wouldn't be buying it for about $4. However, the player concerns still very much focused around the plans for the custom paint jobs and the fact that you constantly have to rebuy the paint schemes. Hopefully, however, if this proves a positive move and more players do pick up cockpit customization designs, and I sincerely suggest that you do, so that PGI sees that dropping the price of these items is in the long run far more beneficial than trying to keep the price artificially higher for these digital items, then hopefully we will see an MC cost reduction across the board for hero mechs, more unique cockpit items, and indeed them having a look at the paint job concerns from the player base. In any event, much kudos to PGI for actually listening to its player base, and this is really a positive sign as PGI starts to develop more and more into a reputable development house. Not to suggest that they weren't in the first place, of course, but obviously when you're dealing with a large franchise like this, and really what is their first big MMO standalone game not being in developed with in conjunction with anyone else, then they really do need to build up that trust with the consumer base, and this is, in my opinion, a very positive first move in that direction. If I had to level one criticism against the new cockpit items, I would probably say that some of the items are not quite as well realised as some of the others. The New Year's balloon and the bottle of champagne, both items which I quite happily display on my cockpit whilst playing the game, look fantastic. However, the New Year's 3050 banner, which you may see in some of the video clips in the background of this video, does not look that good at all. It's very pixelated. Now, that may be something to do with my graphics card settings. I don't know. I'd maybe have to play about with that. But certainly, playing the game at a medium graphics setting, that banner does not look as good as some of the other items, and I would hope that PGI makes some moves towards rectifying that in the near future. This patch also saw several performance fixes being introduced for players, and several players on the MWO forums, especially those using duo cores, have reported a significant increase in their frame rate and level of gameplay. In addition, there were several changes made to auto cannons. This includes setting an increased projectile speed for all auto cannon variants. The Narc beacon lifespan has been increased to 20 seconds, that's up from 15 seconds previously, and the tag range has increased to 750 meters, that's up from 450 meters previously. We've also seen an increase in PPC projectile speed and the ER PPC projectile speed. However, one of the biggest changes to affect the player base is the new economy system. This has seen repair and rearm being removed from the game. Whilst I'm very much saddened by the fact that rearm and repair has been removed, and I do have the feeling that it does take away quintessentially some of that Mechwarrior feel from the game, I do understand why it was necessary, and it was a big deal for many of the newer players, and ultimately it didn't really serve a purpose in the current game. So whilst yes, you can argue that it takes away from the immersion, and like I say, I'm very saddened to see it go, ultimately I think it is a positive move, and PGI has done very much the right thing in removing it. Now, because repair and rearm has been removed, there have been some economy changes, and now mission rewards have been adjusted to reflect the removal of repair and rearm. You should see each match now a repair, or rather a reward, which is consistent with that you would have seen net after repair and rearm in most matches. Now, some of the players have complained that this no longer limits or causes consequence, rather, for players getting mech damage, and therefore detracts slightly from the metagame. I would in turn argue that you should always try to avoid having your mech damaged in any possible way, because that's how you win matches. And anyone who is foolhardy and running in deserves a face full of gauze and SRM6s as far as I'm concerned. So I don't really feel that argument holds a great deal of water. With the new economy came a new Cadet bonus. It's a scaling reward for the first 25 matches played by new players. The system is designed to ease players into the game, allowing them to quickly buy their first Battlemech within 4 to 5 matches, regardless of match outcomes. As it currently stands with this Cadet bonus, light mechs will of course be purchased within 4 to 5 matches, medium mechs within 6 to 10, heavy between 11 and 15 matches, and assault mechs in 16 to 25 matches. By match 25, players should have earned roughly in the region, or of rather an absolute minimum of 8.6 million C-bills, and of course hero and premium time boosts apply to the Cadet bonus, meaning that you can rack up a substantial amount of money in those first 25 matches. Now, for those players that were over 26 matches, they received a one-time bonus of 7.9 million C-bills to compensate them for missing out on that Cadet bonus. Again, this is another shrewd move by PGI, as they're listening to the player base, particularly those new players who have had a great deal of difficulty adjusting to the Mechwarrior simulation and having to deal with the, I have to say, atrocious trial mechs. And it's very frustrating to have to grind through the trial mech experience to get enough C-bills to buy your own mech and start customizing it. So the introduction of this Cadet bonus in combination with the removal of the repair and rearm from the mech lab is likely to create a far more positive experience for new players coming into the game. Now, while some people may argue against it, again, as I said with the repair and rearm, I really don't see it as being a valid argument. I can't see how you could possibly argue against what I see as only a positive move. This is going to dramatically ease new players into the game. It's a very, very sound indication that PGI is listening to its player base and the concerns of new players, and really wants to be able to include new players into the game. And it's things like this which is going to attract more casual players into the game far more than any novelty item like third person view, something that most of the Mechwarrior fan base really does not want to see included. So as long as PGI continues to make these smart moves, continue to listen to the player base in this manner, we're going to see MWO shape up into a really fantastic multiplayer online game. Ladies and gentlemen, I have at last come to the end of all the news for this week, and a good thing too. It is currently 20 past 2 in the morning. I'm starting to slur my words, and I can imagine the quality of my commentary is somewhat lacking towards the end of this video. It has taken a short while to try and compile. However, I sincerely hope that you have enjoyed the show. Please do leave me some feedback. This is obviously a pilot episode. I hope to substantially improve the quality in coming episodes. However, any constructive criticism, any feedback you have, or even if you just thoroughly enjoyed the show, please do let me know in the comments below or in the thread on the MWO forums. It really does help me out and allows me to tailor the content into something that you're going to find enjoyable. I have, of course, been Runs with Fire. This has been Mechwarrior News. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you next time.